Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the dangers of listening to family and friends after your breakup. When you're going through a breakup, you may feel completely lost, alone, devastated, anxious, confused, and all of this is completely normal. It's a very overwhelming and traumatic experience. So we often go to our friends and family to share what's going on, to connect with them, and a lot of times to get advice. But what I've seen so many times is that the advice that your friends and family give are not going to be helpful. Okay, first of all, your friends and family aren't experts in relationships or breakups. Okay, they're going to have opinions like they know what works. But so often with anything in life, the people that really study it and care about it and are passionate about it have far greater wisdom than the average person. Okay, you wouldn't go to your friends and family for heart advice or maybe dental advice, and you shouldn't, because they're not experts. And if you're having a heart issue, you want to get seen by a heart surgeon or a doctor that specializes in that. It's important, okay? So going to friends and family to breakup advice is often going to give you information, strategies that don't work. They'll tell you to go to their place. They'll tell you if they still love you, you can reach out, and they'll say to you all the time, oh, they're done. They're done. I know that they're done, because they don't have any understanding of this. They don't deal with it every day. I talk to people every single day around the world for a decade on this. Okay. So I see what happens time and time again. You're in that very early stage of the process and are only knowing and experiencing what you're going through. So be very careful when you take advice from them. I understand you want to connect with them. I understand you want to share what's going on. I did too. However, the strategies that they give you are often going to make the situation worse. Remember, they care about you. You're their priority. They don't want to see you hurt. They just saw this other person hurt you. They're angry. They're not going to give you hope with somebody that treated you poorly. They're trying to protect you in a way, but they don't know the dynamics. They don't know objectively the situation. You know, they typically take one person's side, and that's understandable, right? We all want to protect the person that we love and care about. And if we see somebody leave the situation, you may get hurt and angry, and they may not know how difficult the relationship had become, or the struggles that it was having, or the part that you really played in the dynamic, right? That may have caused the breakup. So be very careful. I cannot tell you how many times a week someone will say, my mom said to do this, my friend said to do that, and my buddy, who's really good with women, he knows, and this is what he told me to do. And then I'm already bracing myself because I know that it's usually going to be bad. At least 9 times out of 10, it's going to be bad. So today I've got an email coaching from a client that I have done many, many calls with, easily over 20. And this woman, she's done a tremendous amount of work. She's doing the creative healing course. Actually, she's going through it more than once. And she's shared a few stories on the channel along the way, and she had another one that she wanted to share. And this is some of the recent struggles that she's had with friends and family and getting bad advice and, struggling. Okay. So let's get into this one. You're going to find this really helpful, and I'm sure you're going to relate to a lot of this. It said, hello, coach. After our Zoom call, I asked if I could share my experience having advice from friends. I thought it might be helpful to others going through something similar. 2 years ago, I went through the grief of a breakup. Looking back, I had forgotten just how lonely and isolating grief can feel. I also had forgotten how misunderstood it often is by the people around us. Recently, I found myself grieving a connection, and it reminded me of something I experienced before. Okay, so her breakup was a couple years ago. She's been talking to somebody else, and the person that she was talking to had said he was going to move to another country, and he recently did. Grief is one of those experiences that many people rush to fix because they don't care, but not because they don't care, because it makes them uncomfortable, and friends don't like to see us hurting. The challenge I found with friends is that most of them are not experts in grief, attachments, or relationships. They give advice based on how they would handle the situation, what has worked for them, or makes sense to them. And it's understandable. I'm not knocking your friends and family for wanting to help you. I would too. If I didn't understand this and someone came to me with a breakup, I would be there for my friends and family too. In fact, I did before I did what I do. But I just understand that when that's all you have to talk to, the advice is going to be bad. Okay? And now a lot of people are going online, looking at artificial intelligence, and a lot of that is counterintuitive to what we would teach too. It doesn't work in a lot of ways. Trust me. I hear about it all the time. So today, I want to share a few examples of the advice I received while navigating this grief. And I think it's important to be thoughtful about those whose voices we allow in our healing process. It's a good point. Many of us don't think about the people that are giving us this advice. We don't take a look at their relationships and say, well, they've been divorced 3 times and I've never seen them happy, right? We don't consider, what is the status of their current relationship? How happy are they? How happy is the relationship? How is this person's mental health? Just a few questions you might want to consider. So this is some of the things that people would probably tell you. If he wanted to, he would. And we actually have a video on that. We have a title called If They Wanted to, They Would. You can check that out. Tough it up. You need to be strong. Don't cry for him. Book a trip and go visit him. That always winds up going poorly. I have seen many people try stuff like that. In fact, I had a very good friend of mine do that a long time ago before I started the channel, and it did not go good. Make him feel guilty so he'll understand what he's putting you through. Not going to create attraction. Everything is in your head. You are the one giving this connection a meaning, so just take the meaning away. Stop thinking about him, and eventually you'll forget all about him. Focus on every bad thing he ever did. Sleep with someone new. That would take him out of your mind. You've heard that expression? If you're going to get over someone, get under someone. Yeah. Many of you, that is the last thing you would want to do, is be intimate with somebody else. It's only been a week. Give it 15 more days to distract yourself and you'll be over him. Oh, just 15 more days. Just 15. Doesn't work like that. They're well-meaning, and, not all of these things are horrible to think about, right? Right? I'm not going to knock everything on here, like, focus on every bad thing they ever did. Yeah, well, it could be helpful to think about the negative things your ex did. But a lot of this is bad. Make them feel guilty. It's only been a week. Give them 15 more days. Sleep with somebody new. Book a trip to go visit him. See, so some of those are really poor things to do. What I would tell you is that if you haven't heard us recommend it on the channel, don't do it. Okay? Now, obviously, if you're gonna do a coaching with me, we could talk about all these things. But if you're not planning on booking a coaching with me, don't do anything that we don't tell you to do in the channel. You can, but you're probably going to regret it. I've learned how important a support system is, and that grief is never meant to be carried completely alone. However, support and advice are not the same thing. because I went through a grieving process before with the coaches. I wasn't looking for advice. I told my friends not to give me any advice in the moment, that I just want to vent, and yet I received many unhealthy ones. That's the reason I wanted to write this email. Breakups are already hard on its own, and advice can make the process harder to navigate. I hope this one is helpful. Feel free if you decide to share the situation if it needs any context. I wanted to focus on the advice more than the situation. Thank you for all the work and support. So here's a couple of points that I want to talk about that you want to think about. The rush to fix versus true support. We often want to go to our friends and family because we're feeling like we're dying in that moment, and they rush to give you advice because they're uncomfortable seeing you in pain, right? So true support is really about holding space for that person and listening, whereas advice can sometimes be a way for the friend to alleviate their own anxiety rather than sit there and help you process it, right? So true space, just being there with you, can be a lot more helpful to you than actually telling you a strategy. Just go visit them. Book that trip to go visit them. Another thing you want to consider is the danger of ego-based advice. As we saw in this email, there were several toxic suggestions like make them feel guilty, sleep with someone new. This advice usually comes from a place of their ego and or retaliation, which can interfere with the emotional work you're trying to do, attachment, healing, and make the situation worse, right? Because if you're doing these things and they get angry, your ex gets angry and upset, it can make the situation more difficult to turn around, right? And then you're kicking yourself thinking, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. One thing that you could really consider is just telling your friends and family, I just need to vent right now. I'm not looking for a solution. I just need to get this off my chest. And that could really help the dynamic. So you're not getting that advice. The loneliness of being misunderstood. Grief feels so isolating and lonely. And you really do feel like nobody understands what you're going through, because when you go to your friends and family, a lot of times they're like, oh, just give it 15 days and you'll be over them. What? Bad advice can make you feel more isolated. And it might make you feel like your feelings are wrong. You know, they tell you you're just looking at it differently or wrong, or you got to look at it this way. And if you do this particular thing, it'll be better in no time. Unfortunately, grief takes time for us. The more you can do to process and put words to it, the better off you're going to be. If you're tired of feeling confused and unsure about how to handle your situation, I highly recommend you check out my workbooks or my creative healing course. It is meant to help you every day. Instead of just obsessing about what your ex is doing, which isn't going to help at all, it's going to make you feel worse. Focus on sitting down doing the course. There's so much incredible information in it. And you could just look at the comments of the people on the channel on all across the 2,500 videos that are doing the work on the workbooks and the course and really changing their life, because I really want you guys to be able to change your life for the better after this breakup and take something negative and make it the best thing that's ever happened to you. In a way, I know it's the most devastating thing that's ever happened to you for many of you, but I also want to be able to make it the best thing that's ever happened to you. And when you focus on the knowledge and doing that work, many of you tell me, I would rather be the person that I am today and not have my ex than to be the person that I was and be with them. And that is an incredible thing to hear from you guys, because that tells me that we are doing exactly what I want to help you guys do. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Set that boundary with your friends and family. I just need to vent. And it might make a big difference and them influencing you into doing something that really turns your ex off. And hopefully this one's been helpful to you. If you'd like to get my help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. That's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.